There was a lot of money, there was a lot of construction. This was not a little movie.
And for a period of time, I didn't have a weekend off for 11 weeks.
If it's for killing it, that's the way we'll do it. I'm for that. Nothing else.
It got tense inside those corridors.
He loves working with smoke, tons of smoke, this beeswax.
Sometimes I know they used to complain about me not sitting there having a heart-to-heart. I didn't want to sit there and have a heart-to-heart. I wanted them to feel insecure. I wanted them to be afraid. And that's why I'd never show them the alien.
The whole thing pivoted on believing a number of rather fantastic things. And it was very clear that if the monster looked silly or the chest-bursting scene looked ridiculous or, the whole thing was a lost cause.
My personal predominant writing emotion throughout that whole production was deep worry. For once in my career, create a really good movie. The elements were there. And at the same time, there were elements there that could bring it all down and turn it into, kitty litter.
Shot at Shepperton Studios. Then it was a kind of slightly run down just outside of London and been a famous studio. But the Who were in a soundstage trying out a laser show next door to us. There was a special effects unit at Bray Studios, which was way at the other end of London. I actually left right when they started shooting. I thought, Gordon was going to stay there. Came back when there were some problems and spent most of the next year there until we were finished.
I went on the set several times, yes. Quite remarkable, actually. I didn't expect it to be quite as fascinating as I found it to be. I remember the first day I went on the set, they took me through the whole workshop and showed me what they were doing, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I seem to remember the length of the production was, I think it must have been about 14 weeks. I know we went over a couple. It was a tough schedule, very, very tough. It was tough because Ridley was, as always, pushes the fabric.
It was tense because the budget was very low, and there were, within the first 4 days of shooting, there were 9 producers and studio executives on the set just counting the minutes on Ridley and complaining and why wasn't he shooting, and he was shooting so fast. They gave him no pre-light time, so he was trying to find the look in the first 2 days. And one of the producers, I remember, came to me on the 4th day and said, "Why is he taking so long?" And I said to him, "I don't understand what you're saying. He's doing 40 setups, 50 a day sometimes. The stuff looks amazing. I don't know what you're all doing." And it did get to Ridley. I remember one instant, I was right next to him. He went off like a rocket. It was like power coming out. He punched his fist right through the ceiling of the bridge in just sheer frustration because he did not understand why everyone was on his back.
Well, of course, our first day of shooting, and all of the things start popping, and there was smoke, so much smoke, it was unbelievable. The canisters were going, and the smoke was being pumped in because we're supposed to be on fire as we're crash landing into this strange planet. I'm surprised none of us are dead. I mean, they didn't have codes like here. They have to have a water base, which took a long time for them to get, but over there was like smelt pots. You were so grimy when you left at the end of the day. I mean, between the being sprayed with glycerin and the smoke and the beeswax. John Mallow was the one who designed the costumes, and these costumes were, they were huge. They were padded. We had big plates. They were like football padding, only they were sort of very, very heavy plastic, and then we had these big bubbles on the top of our heads, and they had CO2 canisters in the back to set off that smoke as we went along.
Standing in that spaceship with a clip on, fastening it on, Within 15 seconds, I'm getting really hot. And I don't get claustrophobic, but I'm getting really hot, and you could easily get phobic, right? I said, Jesus, this doesn't work. You got to keep them cool inside here. We have to have some kind of help with, oxygen, correct mix, right? After all, we are in the 20th century. Isn't that possible? You got aqualungs and you got breathing apparatus. And explained to me why it was difficult.
We had hockey gloves that we had to wear, and moon boots, and this desert. It was the largest set in Europe. It was huge. It was a desert. They shipped in all of the sand. It was absolutely unbelievable. And here we are. We're supposed to trudge across it. Well, it was a heat wave. It was 115 degrees. Our suits had been lined with nylon, which makes you sweat anyway. We just wore sort of like little leotards underneath the whole thing, and then we'd get into this suit, and then off we'd go. Well, they had forgotten to put in any sort of escape for our breath. Well, if you're in there for any length of period of time, you start breathing carbon dioxide.
I do remember I almost passed out because a lot of that stuff was untried. They put it on you, and you just tried to see if it would work for you, and I really could not breathe.
We were passing out like flies. I mean, it was unbelievable. Poor John, by the time he'd get to the other end, they had to have a nurse there with an oxygen tank because he would sweat so profusely in there, he couldn't even see. It would just be one big, massive bowl of sweat.
I can remember John being very, very unhappy about, I think he found it pretty claustrophobic, shut up in the helmet.
So they'd have the nurse give him some oxygen and stuff like that, and all right, off we go again. They couldn't see a problem until it came to the distant shot where, to make the set even look bigger, they had kids. And two of the kids were Ridley's kids. And they both passed out in those little suits. So then, obviously, there must have been something that was going on, so they gave us air. That was nice of them.
I mean, Ridley pushes everybody. He tends to concentrate on all aspects of the frame. In other words, he's painting his picture. And so sometimes actors who are not used to this are used to the director sort of focusing on them and them only, whereas Ridley is concerned about, the look, about the dust, about the lighting, about the way things are dressed and things like that. I think they found sometimes that they were probably being a little bit neglected. And I remember Tom had some kind of angry words about having to hang around a long time on set.
The studio, of course, resisted a lot of what he was doing, resisted the time he was taking. I resisted some of the time he was taking. We had a full cast waiting for 3 days in one case.
Now, Tom, in your time.
I mean,
okay?
wait till I'm moving here.
Yes, I will. Okay, ready? And action. Ready, Tom? Turn back to me now. Ready?
And we all were getting pretty disgruntled. But it was all worth it. We all knew we were making a classic.
The first week, I had to I think, grab Jonesy, and I was wearing glycerin because it was supposed to be hot and we were supposed to be sweaty. And we did this shot, and my face started to get very red, and I felt this incredible burning. And I looked at the cat, and luckily they called lunch. I went upstairs. I was crying because I realized I was allergic to Jones. And I thought, gosh, it was probably so hard for Ridley to find 4 matching cats. They're going to get rid of me because I'm allergic to the cat. I was sure that it would have been harder to find the cats than me, and maybe it was as hard, I don't know. But luckily, after I washed my face, it was the glycerin in cat hair that I was allergic to. But I remember thinking, I'm so out of here,
Everything was so claustrophobic on that set. I mean, that is one of those sets where you walked in, and there's the engine room. Well, that's fine. But connected to that is the corridor. Connected to that was the cafeteria. Connected to that was the hospital. It was all connected, the ship. So once you were on, you were on. You had to go through everything in order to get off.